Well, I will tell you this about Chat GPT. I hate doing the book blurbs. I hate them. It's like you
Yes.
can sit there and tell an author to write an entire book, and I can write an entire book, but then you get to that point where you have to describe a book. I'm just completely lost. And then one of the things that I learned with Chat GPT is that if I just put in, like, this is what the book is about, it'll give me a brief sketch of a book blurb. And so that has just made my life so much easier because that
Yes.
used to be one of the things I used to hate is just really coming up with those book descriptions. And now by just utilizing that Chat GPT, I'm able to, really, it's like not a big deal anymore.
I'm going. On our first guest, he goes by the name of Enigma. I love that name. So Enigma, come on in.
Hey, thank you for
Hey, there
having me.
you are. How you doing?
I am excited. Thank you for having me. Yes, and everybody loves the name Enigma.
Well, I'm gonna have to ask you, where did you get the name? How did you come up with that name?
So when I was thinking about just writing my books and coming up with a perfect pen name that came to me, I'm a Batman fan, and then one of his villains is named Edward Nigma, and so Enigma. And the reason I went with that is because being the type of writer that I am, since I deal with a lot of multi genres,
Mhm.
you never know what you're going to get from me. So it's an enigma.
Right.
You may get a sci-fi, you may get a murder mystery. You just never know. So I figured that name pretty much would sum it up to people will know, hey, the Enigma book, we don't know what it's going to be. So that's how it kind of stuck with me from there.
I like it. I like it. I like it. So tell us about Enigma. Who is Enigma? What type of author do you see yourself as?
Well, honestly, I started writing screenplays and scripts initially.
Okay.
I'm a big movie buff. I love to watch movies, and I just wanted to try to get into that realm. And the movie industry, it's a fickle one, as everybody
Yes.
knows. It's really tough, and there's a lot of things that goes on with it. And so I started writing a whole bunch of different scripts and things like that. And I had a couple scripts optioned, and I actually
Right.
did film one of my stories. It's not a good film, trust me. But the story itself,
That was
the
very
story itself,
honest of you.
yeah. I don't want people to go out there and try to find this movie because, yeah, it wasn't it was my first time dealing with it, trying to film it myself. And I didn't know as much as I know now. So who knows in the future. But
Right.
after I decided to stop kind of dealing with Hollywood for a while, I still had a stack of these scripts. And I decided, you know what? These will actually make good stories still. And so I started to do the novel work, and these scripts are already outlined for everything, so it was real easy to transition from scriptwriter to novel.
Hmm. So you just took the scripts that you had and expanded on the story per se and made them into books?
Yeah, a good bit of them. Now there are some books that I have written that I actually came up with, without the scripts and things like that. But that's how I started off, just really just converting a lot of those scripts over into stories. And I love it this way because I get to expand on a lot of things. With the movie
Right.
script, it's very short, but I can get into more details with the characters with the novel. So when people say that the novels are better than the movie, they're not lying because you get to do a lot more. I get to see a lot more of those characters come out, and so I really do enjoy the novelized versions as opposed to scripts.
So now you've written what, 30 books now?
Yes, 30. I'm working on my 31st.
Wow, you are a writing machine.
Yeah, I mean, I always tell everybody who asks me about, advice on being a writer, just write. Okay, just get it on paper, just write and just build that habit because there's days when I don't write and I just feel like, I should be doing something. I built so much of a habit that I have to write something every day, even if it's just a paragraph, just keep the
Right.
habit going. And so, yeah, I've gotten to the habit now that even if I take a day off, it's a real struggle for me.
So now, do you have a certain regiment that you follow when it comes to writing? Do you wake up first thing in the morning and write? Do you write at night? Do you have a day job?
Yes, I have a day job, unfortunately. If I
I
had
do
that
too.
day
Don't
job,
feel
I
bad.
probably had double that. But no, it's just a matter of normally when I get home or over the weekends or something like that. Even throughout the day on breaks and stuff, I may jot down a couple of ideas and then
Mhm.
expand on it. A lot of times, a lot of people when they write like I do, it's hard for them to sleep because in the back of my mind, I'm still processing different verbiage on ways that I want to approach something. And then,
Right.
finally, when I get the chance to do it, I'll take a look at some of those notes I may have written down and just, expand on it from there.
So, how do you come up with your story ideas?
It varies. Some are based off of real life. So a lot of times, some of my more comedic stories take places that and where I used to work at, like a call center or a retail store. And then some things are just based off a dream I had. One of my recent books, I had a dream and I just woke up and I said, that's a book idea. And I need to expand on it. And then it became one of my best selling books. So, you know,
Nice.
it just certain things just kind of pop into your head and just kind of really just motivate you.
So, I'll tell you that I like to walk around with my phone or and I use my notes for a lot of things. When I have an idea, for some reason, I don't know what it is about me, but when I go to church is when I get my story ideas. Not because I looked at somebody and they gave me a story idea, just certain things will pop in my head while I'm in service. And of course, I don't have my computer with me. So sometimes I try to write it down or I type it into my notes or sometimes I try to do my best to remember it and write it down later, but that doesn't always work. So, what do you do when an idea just kind of hits you out of nowhere?
Well, normally, like you said, I use my cell phone exclusively for note taking and things like that. So if I have something, I have a little notepad that I'll go in there quickly, just kind of type it on there. Like you said, at nighttime, it's kind of tough if you wake up 2 and 3 in the morning with an idea because yeah, I'm not about not about to take my phone out and do all of that. I'll just try to remember it. And I find that a lot of those ideas, especially when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, why was I thinking this was such a good idea? It's like, where did this come from? Like at nighttime when you're groggy, it seems like a good idea, but then when you wake up and actually remember what you were thinking about, that's a terrible idea. So normally I have my phone near me pretty much all the time throughout the day. So if something comes up, I'll either pop it on my little notepad or shoot myself an email or something like that. But I try to keep up with it because, I can really work with it. Even if it's not a too good of an idea, it's just planting that seed and I can make it, just a basic idea to hopefully a great idea.
There you go. So, science fiction. I mean, I respect anybody who gets into science fiction because that's like a whole different level of imagination, especially for me, because I imagine like multicultural, contemporary type things when I'm imagining my stories. But when it comes to science fiction, you're not just creating characters. Sometimes you're creating worlds.
Mhm.
In you're creating sometimes other beings. So how do you put yourself into that mode to create that way?
So pretty much on all of my books, I have what I call my little book Bible. And normally it's just something that I kind of track different traits on different characters. So things that I don't forget, in the future when I'm writing the different characters. Well, the sci-fi one is actually the biggest because you create, like you say, you create worlds, you create beings, and you create powers, and you need to remember all of this stuff. And I've written a 3-book series. I'm thinking about a fourth one, but I could actually leave it off on the third one if I wanted to.
Mm,
And so when I'm revisiting these characters, I need to remember, wait, what did I say that this person can do? Because, when you write typical books, you're basically going with the rules of life. Okay. So,
right.
you're not going to write a murder mystery and then somebody just takes off and start flying. It's going to be rules of the world. Whereas sci-fi, you've created so many rules, so many, characters, so many beings that it takes a lot to keep up with. So that book Bible is basically filled with every character, all the different traits, all the
I love
different
that.
slang that they use.
You have a different book Bible for each book that you write?
Yes.
I love it.
Now, keep in mind, most of them are just normally just keeping character traits down. So they're not really, that involved. But with sci-fi, I have multiple tabs, multiple things, stuff like that. But yeah, it's always a thing because I want to keep up with page count, characters, and all that type of stuff. So yeah, I create one for each book.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, I tell people all the time that even if you are a pantser, writing by the seat of your pants, it's good to have, kind of plan your characters a little bit. What types of personalities do they have? Do they have certain habits? What is something that only they have? Do they have like a scar or something on their face? Something that would you be able to recognize them if there were 3 people walking down the street? You would know which one is your character.
Right.
And when you write all of these things down, it just helps you to get to know your character better. And then you can actually really get deep into description, because now you can just do a really passing description of your character, and your reader automatically knows who it is because you've given them a chance to get to know the character.
Exactly. And believe it or not, I am a what I call a grower when I write. Basically, I don't necessarily know where the story is going. I just want to see where it takes me, but I still track all this stuff because I know that I'm going to get to a point where even if it's just something as simple as a last name, I'm like, what did I put as the last name of this character? Now I got, instead of having to go search through previous writings, I can just go right there to the Bible and say, oh, okay, that was Williams. That's who it was. And I can kind of keep flowing like that. So just little things, like you said, and then talk about their personality, who their relations are, and things like that. Yeah, I always want to tag those characters with that information, so it makes it just easier for me to look back at.
Well, thank you once again for being on the show. If you ever want to come back to the Horizons Author Lounge, all you have to do is say the word.
All right, I appreciate you, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. You have a great night.